Aloha and welcome to Honolulu to PTC'25, where I'm now joined by Doug Recker, President of DuosEdge AI, and Adrian Goldfarb, Chief Financial Officer of Duos Technologies Group. Doug, Adrian, thanks so much for joining me here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
It's a long trip for everyone. No matter where you are, it's a long trip for everyone.
is.
How many PTCs have you been to?
Eight here.
Oh wow, okay.
This is my first one.
Okay, good. Okay, so a new boy.
Yeah. I brought the boss to the new one.
Okay, yeah. You won't regret it. There's a lot of.
Yeah, it's been very interesting.
I hope you pack the spare lever.
Yeah.
But guys, look, we are talking about everything at this conference, but one thing that we haven't heard that much yet is about edge computing and how we're going to expand infrastructure into tier 3, tier 4 cities. So how does edge can really transform the next generation of geography destinations for investment in digital infrastructure, and how does DuosEdge kind of play into it?
Great question. So, and since the last time we spoke, now we can actually use a true use case. So we actually dropped our first pod in Amarillo, Texas, which is really a tier 4 market, right? And that focus for that pod is to bring better connectivity, more carriers, lower the latency to the local schools, and basically how that's set up is we drop our modular pod there that has 15 cabinets, roughly 200 kW, and we connect all the schools back to the mothership, to the main school, which is usually the region center, and all the connectivity flows back to there, and they compute cache, and they do all their cloud compute, everything on site now in that region, instead of going 5,000 miles or 1,500 miles back to Dallas, where the major data centers are. So it's actually working, it's up and running, and our first school district just came up, and we have 6 more in process.
Okay, I was going to ask, is that something that's easy to replicate to other places, other parts of the country, or you can't follow a blueprint, you have to do something different?
No, it's actually, it's a cookie cutter process how we develop this. So once we basically, our first market really is the state of Texas. So what we're doing is, the first one was a POC at Amarillo, and it's working great. So now what we're going to do is take that model and do it throughout the state of Texas, and now we can go to Illinois, Ohio, we can replicate that all across the country.
And then how do you kind of present the financial model of all those things? How do you finance it? How do you push that out? And maybe more for you, Adrian, as well, because you are the parent company. So if you know there's DuosEdge AI, Duos Technology Group is the parent company.
Right.
So how do you spend money?
As sparingly as possible, but maybe it's good for me to give you just a little bit of history.
Yeah.
So Duos has been a public company since 2015, and our main business up until very, very recently was we're a tech business involved in AI and advanced technologies, but actually specifically with the railcar industry. And we got started a project a few years ago which used an edge data center. The reason we used the edge data center was because we needed to do a lot of processing right at the edge. You couldn't backhaul it over the cloud, it was just too much data. So in terms of investment, which I guess is the question you're asking, is we put a lot of money into those railcar inspection portals, and we still continue to put money into that, both from a technology development, from research and development. And so we've grown it on from there. And so that sort of led, we've known Doug for, in his other businesses for a few years, and we decided to get together to say maybe we could specialize in that. So all the money we've invested in our basic technologies, we've now, if you like, sliced off a piece of that, and now can implement that, and hopefully drive the company onto some other growth paths.
Okay, what would you guys point out as some of the main challenges to rolling out infrastructure in this day and age? The first one that comes to mind is power.
Yeah, power, yes.
So then how do you navigate those challenges?
So actually, you know, the smart thing about our model and why we can deploy a lot quicker is our range on power can be single phase or 3-phase, and we traditionally only need 200 to 400 kW. Those little areas of power are easier to find than when you go into a market and ask for 5 or 10 megawatt, right? So our little space that we're in is perfect. We can put them on the ground quickly, we can permit them quickly because they're made basically in Denver, and we ship them, plug them in and play. So it's an easy process.
Made in the US as well?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
How, I mean, completely side question there. Any supply chain issues in producing things in the US, or is it quite smooth producing and distributing in country?
Right now, with our model, in that range of power is pretty on. Yeah, it's easy, right?
Okay.
And we're not, the main switch gear is 600 amp at the max, you know. So you're in that space where it's not off the shelf, but it's not 9 months.
Okay. And you've recently also gone into an asset management deal with Fortress Investment Group, or Infrastructure Group, sorry.
Yes.
Investment Group, yeah. Talk us through the deal, like what
So,
does it mean for Duos?
Once again, a little bit of history.
Yeah.
So our CEO, a gentleman by the name of Chuck Ferry, when he came to Duos, he actually came from a company called APR Energy. And APR Energy had about 30 gas turbines, and we're in that business. And he deployed all over the world, places like Argentina, he went to Bangladesh, a lot of different places. And he always had this dream to basically come in and buy that business back. Well, fortunately for us, the business, not the business itself, but the assets came up for sale about 6-8 months ago. And we put together this deal with Fortress to be able to fund that. And so basically, through our division, Duos Energy Corp, which is also a recent addition, we set up this venture. Fortress acquired the assets. We have a small stake in that. But we work collectively together so that between the data center business and now the power business, we can combine those. And it's a very, as you can imagine from this conference, it's a very powerful combination right now. Because we have the assets today.
It's been hailed as one of the solutions for the power challenge.
Absolutely.
And how this grows.
Yes.
And then those guys, I guess, would also have better relationships with energy providers than digital infrastructure players will have.
Correct.
Which then opens the doors a bit more. Is that conversation easy? Now that you have them on board, is it easier?
Actually, the
even though your
demand,
energy needs are smaller than...
Right, the demand is there, right? So now it's trying to figure out, you get 10,000 calls, it's trying to figure out what's the best fit for our company and who's the best partner and who to deploy them with. Like, prime example, we're building our own complex, our own data center, so we're going to be taking some of that power, but there's such a great need with our, I wouldn't say competitors, but other people in our industry that are building data centers. This is a perfect application for them to do temporary power while they wait 3 to 5 years for the main power to come out to the site so they can get up and start going in.
And if I can add something to that, so when we put this deal together, it wasn't just the fact that the assets were there. The fact is we had the people as well, the expertise to do that, because it ended up that a lot of APR's original people ended up working for Duos. And so we were in a perfect place to be able to acquire those assets and then basically put a group together to be able to do that. So Duos does all of the asset management of those Fortress assets.
I mean, you just touched on one of the most valuable valuation metrics, which is human capital.
Right.
If you buy something and you bring the right people, then you can continue business very fast and grow faster.
Right.
AI. So the clue is in the name, DuosEdge AI, but AI. How does edge computing in an AI world differ from normal edge computing from 2016, 2018, for example? How do you cope with those higher demands of CPUs and GPUs and all that?
Yeah, I think the challenge now is, let's use our model right now at the school district. So they're going to eventually start moving to AI. Right now, their compute, their power, you're talking max 30 amp a rack, right? It's not huge power. But now they're looking into getting into the AI. So you have to have that flexibility when you build these modular centers that you can convert to liquid cooling, where you convert to higher density cabinets and have that power requirement available to scale. And we've done that, so we're waiting. We haven't seen it yet with the school system, but I'm sure in the next 2-3 years you'll start to see that, and we can pivot our boxes over to support that.
Yeah, I think people are really hopeful that 2025 and maybe 26, but 25 at least is going to be the year where we're going to start seeing new use cases of AI and really understanding what the demand is and what makes sense of all this.
Yes,
because it's a big hype. We talk a lot about it. And we see
because we actually, as I mentioned to you, once again, going back to a little bit of the history of the company, we've used AI actually for a number of years for this rail car inspection portal because we were doing so much processing. And with Doug did a little bit of consulting for us and guided us to, once again, putting the AI right by the edge so you could do that processing and get results in basically less than a minute rather than an hour or more that it might be today consideration. So once again, the company, obviously with Doug's help, we've had a lot of history with doing that.
Yeah, and in the bigger picture, I'm sure it also saves a bit more energy because you don't need to transfer things into somewhere really far away.
Exactly.
Energy and telecom, right?
Right, and that's why it fits the model that we just lucked out with our model going to the tier 3, tier 4 markets. Traditionally, they can't take advantage of AI out there, right? They don't have the compute power, they don't have a place to land. Now they will with this. So the timing was perfect for us, and I saw it coming. I had my previous business, was the same model, and we were probably 4 or 5 years early. Now we've proven it out, we know how to install them. Now we're off and running, and it's been great.
Okay. Yeah. And when you look into the investment side of it, how does financing an AI project like this in 2025 differ from financing the old digital infrastructure? So we were building speculatively. It was like, we'll build it, they will come. Now it's
a
not
very
like
good question, actually. Right now, the early days, and I hope I don't regret saying this, and actually the financing is a little bit easier than it was in some of the things, because when you're doing pure R&D, there's a very limited, particularly for smaller companies, there's a very limited market for people who want to take the risk. You know, I've obviously got the venture capital, and then if you're a public company, you've got a lot of what I would call the lower tier investment banks, and they're willing to do things, because you have public company stock, it's relatively liquid, but it's usually quite expensive for us. Now that the demand is so much there, we find that avenue has much opened up to us. We have many, many interests. So whereas I might get a handful of calls after we make an announcement, now I'm literally getting 100 calls a month of people who want to invest in the business. So in some ways it's helped us out.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
I mean,
Very good
that's
problem.
one of the good things of this industry.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's right.
As the future
That's
goes.
right.
I mean, now I was going to ask you about consolidation and valuations and all that, but we won't go there.
Not
It's
yet.
too early.
Yeah, exactly.
Too early for that.
Yeah.
Pins on the map. Of course, US is an important one. You just rolled out this project. You have another 5, 6, as you said, in the US. But are you going to
Branch out?
Yes, I forgot the word I wanted to
Yeah,
say.
no, because I get that question a lot. That's a good question. I think
Export. That's what I was looking for.
I think we will, maybe into South America, but first, the need is so great here, and I don't think we want to blow up that fast. But we're going to focus on getting it right, getting the niche right in the market, and we'll definitely look.
Yeah, there's
south.
plenty of demand here. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there'll be exportation.
Yeah,
That was the word I wanted to say.
We're open to it.
Yeah. And then when you look into the wider digital infrastructure ecosystem, so fiber, subsea cables, terrestrial fiber, satellites, hyperscale data centers, edge data centers, how are you guys going to fit into the whole ecosystem? So especially with fiber, 5G, and even satellites, like what's your take on satellites? There seems to be a big topic at PTC this year as well.
Yeah, well, I think you're always going to need us, right? You're going to need fiber. You're going to need, especially in these remote tier 3, tier 4 areas, you're going to see satellite. You're going to see, Starlink will help out in those remote areas. But once again, I still believe you're going to need to compute. You're going to need a place to compute, right? And that's why the edge data centers are still going to be a must. Like, prime example, mobile operators in that area, when they're in a Amarillo setting, they've got to backhaul all their stuff to Dallas or Houston. They don't have to do that now. They can put right there in the market, so that actually makes the 5G better, it makes latency lower. So I don't think it's going to affect our model at all. I think actually it's going to help us, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Well, more data. It's all about data.
Exactly.
It's,
Yeah.
How does it work? So, for example, you come to my town, I will deploy with you, but how does the data know they just needs to stay within the edge sites and can be processed there? Or if it needs more computing power, how does it know automatically it needs to go somewhere bigger?
Right, and it just depends on the application, right, on what the customer is running. So
Is it the human that decides the application, or it's the machine already that decides it?
both.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So let me give you an example. In Amarillo, without the pod being there, they can't do that. There's a lot of dairy farms out there, and the dairy farms want to use AI. They want to use drones to monitor the cattle and feeding and water tables and all that. They can't do that without having compute there. It would cost so much to have the fiber brought to their facility, the farm, and then all the way back to Dallas. So now the farm is only 3 miles from where this pod is. So now they can get a lower connection, smaller connection, and basically cache it there, put all their data right there, compute it, send it right back, and tell the drone, give the information what it needs. That's where you're going to see this application run.
Okay. Now, when we look into emerging technologies or different verticals of edge computing as well, what do you think is going to be disruptive for DuosEdge? And are you going to go even lower than edge computing? I mean, Cisco in the old days we talked about fogs and nodes and all this sort of things. Is that something that eventually
Not us.
you'll be looking at as well?
Yeah, no, our tenants will.
It gets too technical. A lot of
Yeah,
people don't understand either.
Yeah,
So.
we are a facility that houses customers
Yeah.
that give them the ability to do that.
Yeah.
So we're basically a co-location facility out in the middle of nowhere.
Okay. And then, so I guess when you're looking then in the financing side as well, what would you say are going to be the main challenges over the next 24 months, and not just DuosEdge related, but industry-wide? What's the things you're going to be looking out for to make sane investments?
So this is a very, very hot market right now, and there's a lot of people who are players, want to be players, small and large. So everybody's like chasing after the same thing.
And sorry to interrupt, but that's actually a very good point, because there's some fear of missing out, and some people are kind of
Correct.
falling into the pressure of being in it without even understanding it. So how do you kind of balance that?
So, well, what it's going to come down to, it's going to come down to the people that, and you mentioned it yourself earlier, the human capital. Okay, if you have the human capital, you have the technology, and you have the processes in place to be able to do it, then you're going to be able to do it. there's a lot of people that come along and say, well, I could do that. I did this over here, so now I can do over that. And typically, if you look at them about 6 months, you say, well, how many projects do you have going? And usually the answer is somewhere between 0 and 1.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's going to...
Zero.
Yeah, or usually 0, right. So what happens is, in terms of finding the capital is going to find its way to where to those people that have the most experience. And that's why I feel very comfortable with our position, because we do have the experience, the human capital. We hire experts in the industry. I mean, my own background, I was involved in data centers, but you're talking about 40 plus years ago, and I was with the mainframes.
The mainframe,
The mainframe, sure.
I've read about them. I've never seen one.
I mentioned to Doug the other day. I said, "Oh, raised floor." He goes, "They don't do that anymore."
So
I'm a little out of date
cabinets are
with
too
that.
heavy now.
But that's where, in all seriousness, that's where it's going to come down to. The money will always find its way to the thing. Now, people ask in the financial community, which is the community I exist in, is there a bubble? I don't know if you can call it a bubble, but there's a lot going on right now. It's really going to depend on, if you look at the success of companies like NVIDIA, who are partners of ours, or we should say maybe we're partners of theirs, depending on the size.
Yeah.
You look at how they're coming along. We partner with Dell. We partner basically with what we consider to be the leaders in the industry to go for, and they're really going to do the demand. Now, they're making a lot of aggressive forecasts. Depends on now whether that's really going to come to fruition. Are people going to accept AI in the same way? And so a lot of that's going to come out. But investment-wise, I don't see, for us, I don't see an issue with that.
Yeah. I mean, from what you said, we could now go into many different directions, because from public acceptance to government takes on it, sovereign AI and all that's all going to play into how fast is this going to go. The money exists, it's really just how fast. And I think the bubble conversation is a healthy conversation to have, because the more you talk about it, the more floodgates you're going to put in place as well to prevent something happening to your business.
Right.
Yes.
I mean, most guys here have gone through the 2000 crisis, so it wouldn't be the first time. I'm sure people have learned lessons. We hope people have
I started my
learned lessons.
first data center right then, in the middle of it.
What happens is with the bubbles, it's usually the people who are on the, pardon me for using the word, the edge. People on the edge with it either don't really have human capital,
of the
and
network.
they try to get involved in something. Maybe they don't have all the experience and so forth. And those are usually the ones, because there's so much money. Maybe they can get early funding, but then it falls away because they don't have the right process, don't have the right business model. So fortunately, we have a lot of experience. We're a long-standing company, and so the relationship between us, between Doug now, our 3 new subsidiaries, and Fortress and so forth, I think is going to put us in a very, very good place to take advantage of what's coming over the next few years.
You guys are going to have a super busy year. Picking up on human capital, you were previously with Marine Corps as well. You're building DuosEdge AI, so it's 2 years old, still quite young, right? So you're still building team. How do you manage new people coming to the business and the existing people? What's your leadership style, and how have the Marine Corps kind of influenced you in managing these people? I'm sure you don't make them do push-ups in the morning, but
I'd like to, though.
I'd like to.
It's free choice. It's not.
But you know what is cool about the whole concept is you're actually on deployment. So you're taking this box, right? You have to take it into a town. You have to build it out. You have to land it. You have to hook it up. You have to maintain it. And it's just kind of like the military. You do these deployments all the time, and they're more of a fixed asset now. They're not going anywhere. But just like the mobile, containers we used to move all the time. So it's kind of cool, and it works out. And you need the discipline, and that's another reason why we succeed. Is I would say, gosh, close to 70% of our organization is probably military.
Yeah, it's getting up there.
Yeah. So and it's good to have that culture around, and everybody's involved in getting the job done. So it's worked out real well.
It's very structured.
Focus is important.
Yeah, you have to be when you're doing this. You have to be. Yeah.
That sounds good. But look, I'm not going to take more of your time because everyone is busy at PTC. But in 12 months' time, when we are back here for PTC'26, what's the one thing you would like the industry to have done, changed, adopted, reached an agreement on? What's one thing that needs to happen?
I think the next time you see us here next year, we'll have 15, which is a lot. We think 15 pods on the ground running with the school system and other enterprise business inside those. And I think you'll see a great progress on our land development as far as our new data center park that we're building in Pampa, Texas. And I think the doors might be open by then. So that's a 200 plus megawatt facility that we're doing. So we're real excited about that, and you'll keep learning more about that as the months go by. But I think that's what you'll see.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Is that fair?
Yeah,
and from a finance investment perspective, any specific one wish?
One wish. I don't have any particular one wish. As I said, my job has become a lot easier, over the last year. you know, being a public company has, it's particularly a small public company, has both its benefits and it has its challenges as well. Right now it's going more towards the benefits because we have a pretty nice story. A lot of people want to come in now, and my argument to them is, well, you could have come in at, you know, X bucks per share a year ago. Now it's Y bucks per share, you know, and going up from there. So,
but you never know. We have a CEO, you know, Chuck Ferry, who's our CEO, and he'll go after any. He's a what, 27 years in the military.
Yes.
Yeah. I even lock up when I say it, right? So, but he's a go forward and tackle.
Yeah.
So we've changed in the last 4 months drastically just with the ideas, and we're taking off. So it's going to be pretty cool to see our team in a year.
And that's the joy of a young business as well. You can take the risk and trial and error, but always still winning in this industry, really.
I think the final comment on the investment side, because you've asked about that in a number of different ways, is there are people now who are talking to us who would have never talked to us a year ago. And I think that's the big difference for us.
No, that's good. The market is changing.
Yes,
but Adrian Goldfarb, CFO of DuosEdge Technologies Group.
Thank you.
And Doug Recker, CEO of DuosEdge
AI.
AI.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for talking to me.
Thank you very much.
As for your home, thank you for watching, and do check our website and social media for the latest digital infrastructure news from across the globe. At the Tech Capital, you lead, we report. Bye for now.